Welcome back to No Huddle, everyone, and welcome to my Week 15 NFL review. Once again, we're nearing the playoffs, so a bunch of things change with all these results. 16 game slate to talk about, so let's just not waste any time because there was a lot of comebacks, injuries, and just a lot of mix-ups in the NFL season. Kicking off with Thursday Night Football, we got the Falcons coming back to beat the Buccaneers 29-28. In what was one of the weirdest games of the season. The NFC South is just completely unserious. It feels like no one wants to win that division, and we'll talk about the other matchup in a bit. But Tampa Bay honestly started out really well, and really their main guide was basically the refs, but it wasn't like the game was rigged or anything. It was just that the Falcons just kept committing countless penalties. They had 19 on the day, which is a historic amount. It was crazy. And they had a 28-14 lead heading into the fourth quarter, and it felt like everything was dead. But then the Falcons just kind of woke up. Kirk Cousins is incredible against Tampa Bay, and he had another incredible game on the back of Kyle Pitts playing the greatest game of his career. And in the end, they just kind of walked them down. The offense became really static, and then the Falcons just ended up kicking it off with a field goal. For the Falcons, this doesn't really help them that much because, again, they're just trying to give a worst first-round pick to the Rams. But for the Buccaneers, this was a huge missed chance to try and get a leg up on the division. Give yourselves a cushion before the two games against Carolina, and it felt like they just blew the chance. Tampa Bay has just been a very, very bad team since starting 6-2, and it honestly kind of sucks to see. Man of the match for me goes to Kyle Pitts. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he caught 11 passes on 12 targets, which is something crazy. 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. This is what we expected to see more out of Kyle Pitts. I mean, it kind of sucks that we can't really see this for the most of his career, but honestly, if this is a new leaf or if this is the Kyle Pitts that we're going to see, this is the generational talent from the 4th overall pick that we knew that he had. It just feels like this is the first time he truly used it, I guess. So shout out to the Falcons and Tampa Bay. Just please beat Carolina because this, Jesus Christ, this division is so unserious. Moving on to Sunday, we got the Ravens shutting out the Bengals 24-0. Again, no one wants to win the NFC South. No one else wants to win the AFC North. The Bengals are officially out of the playoff race in honestly deserving fashion. The Bengals just completely came out flat. They did absolutely nothing to try and win this game. Burrow did not look good. The connection with Jamar Chase was not there. He threw 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. And again, it's not really like the Ravens did all that much. It was just that they just didn't do stupid mistakes. Derrick Henry ran pretty well. Lamar Jackson played decent, had a way better game than he's had in the last couple of weeks. And overall, again, the Ravens, I don't think they're a very good team, but I guess this is just a good win within the division. One, to kick the Bengals out, and also to stay within reach of the Steelers, trying to set them up for a matchup in Week 18. Man of the match for me goes to the Ravens defense, once again getting a defensive touchdown. And once again, even though the Bengals are a very unserious organization, getting a shutout is still pretty impressive. Not allowing any points to that offense with Joe Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, that deserves some credit. So shout out to the Ravens and Bengals. Please fire Zach Taylor and anyone from that incompetent organization because these past 3 years have been hell for Cincinnati. Now I got the Eagles shutting out the Raiders 31-0. We got a back-to-back shutouts. The Eagles just completely pummeled the Raiders. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say here. The game ended at 3:30 or something like that. It felt like it was over way faster than any of the other games from the slate. And yeah, I mean, if there was any opponent that the Eagles could have faced to fix their offensive problems, it would be the Raiders. Not that I still think their offense is pretty bad, but once again, Jalen Hurts had a great game. Saquon played fine, had a couple yards and a touchdown. The defense did really good, sacking the Kenny Pickett by five times, I believe, and also picking him off once. Kenny Pickett did not have a good game at all. The offense couldn't do anything as to why they scored 0 points. And overall, just a good win for Philly to snap a 3-game losing streak. And with another result that we're going to talk about, it just feels like Philly is 1 week away from making the playoffs. It looks like the 20-year streak of the NFC East is going to be done. And yeah, I mean, Philly, this was the Raiders are basically like the airdrop in Fortnite in terms of they needed a lot of help, and this was just a nice soft opponent for them to get. Man of the match for me goes to Jalen Hurts. Had a really good game. I mean, I could have given it to Dallas Goedert or the defense or something, but honestly, halting the Raiders offense is really not that impressive. They've already been shut out this season before by Kansas City. And overall, Jalen Hurts, once again, he played really well. Had as many touchdowns and completions, was very efficient. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Philadelphia. And please just win on Saturday so we can finally just kick the Cowboys and all the other teams out of the playoffs in the NFC East. Moving on to the Texans beating the Cardinals 40-20. Great showing by the Texans, and of course the Cardinals are the one team that would allow 40 to the goddamn Texans, who still don't have a great offense. But overall, the Texans just pummeled them the entire time. Jacoby Brissett, still elite at stat padding, even against the Texans defense. He was able to get his numbers off. Michael Wilson and Trey McBride had monster games, so if anyone played them in fantasy, it was either hell or heaven for y'all. But CJ Stroud had a great game. The defense locked in, and once again, this is like the Texans' 6th straight win or something like that. They're red hot going into the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs now. And once again, maybe they even have a chance at winning the South. Obviously, losing a game back in week 3 to Jacksonville didn't really help. But honestly, if Jacksonville messes up, maybe the Texans can snatch the AFC South after all. It wouldn't be crazy to say that. Man of the match for me goes to CJ Stroud. Finally had a game in which he didn't look like a quarterback who regressed after his rookie year. This looked more like rookie CJ Stroud. And if they can combine this elite version of CJ Stroud with that monster defense, then yeah, the Texans are by far the team that I would like to play in the playoffs the least, just because that defense should scare anyone considering they made Mahomes and Allen and many other quarterbacks look pedestrian. Now to the Chargers, eliminating the Chiefs 16-13. My favorite game of the entire week, apart from Mahomes' injury. It kind of really sucks that he had to get hurt, and I kind of hope he recovers because obviously the league is worse without him in it. But talking about the game, the Chiefs once again came out completely flat. They jumped out to a 13-3 lead, but then the Chargers kind of walked them down, got a touchdown before the end of the half, tied it with a field goal, and then they ended up taking the lead, and then the Chiefs just couldn't do anything for the entire second half, even when Mahomes was there. He threw a bad interception that could have led to a field goal, and overall, once again, Gardner Minshew had to step in, and he ended up throwing an interception. Just a terrible way for the Chiefs to end their season. Now they have absolutely nothing to play for because Mahomes isn't going to play, obviously, until 2026, and who knows how much he'll miss of that season. Kelsey's not going to get a nice farewell tour, and they just have 3 games that maybe they could win just for morale purposes, just to go out not completely sad, or they lose to get a better draft pick. Kind of feels weird that we're talking about this situation for the Chiefs. But for the Chargers, I mean, it was a very good win. I think this win kind of seals them being in the playoffs. And my only concern for the Chargers, really the only concern that they have as a team, is just their offensive line. The offensive line is so bad. Herbert just keeps getting hit. And honestly, I'm still surprised that Herbert hasn't gotten hurt all that much. He has gotten hurt, but I'm surprised he hasn't missed many games because of this offensive line. It just feels like if they play a team like the Texans, like the Broncos, like any other team with a ferocious defensive line, it might be currents for the Chargers because Herbert is just going to get killed out there. But my man of the match goes to their defense. Yes, stalling the Chiefs' offense isn't as impressive as other years, but still forcing them to 13 points, forcing Mahomes to not have a good game, sealing it with an interception, having, I believe, 2 total turnovers and only allowing 13 points in Arrowhead. Honestly, a very good job. So shout out to the Chargers. And for the Chiefs, prayers up to Mahomes, but still, I will be laughing at you for the foreseeable future. Now we got the Bills walking down the Patriots 35-31, and what was maybe the biggest comeback of the entire week. The Patriots looked like they were firing on all cylinders. They jumped out to a 21-0 lead, and I just thought, okay, they were going to win the AFC East, and everything, it was going to be concrete that the Patriots were finally described as a good team. And then the Bills, them being a second-half team, they're one of the best second-half teams in the NFL, they completely walked them down. James Cook started to play well. Josh Allen got into a rhythm. The defense started locking up, forcing a turnover. And overall, outside of a really, really explosive play from Travion Henderson, the Patriots really did nothing in the second half. Yes, there were some ref calls, but honestly, that doesn't excuse you blowing a 21-0 lead at home, by the way. To a team that you should be better than, huge missed opportunity for the Patriots. But shout out to the Bills. They keep the division hopes alive. It looks like they're also going to clinch the playoffs. And with the Chiefs out, the Ravens being very hobbled, and all the teams in the AFC having some sort of question mark, this is a really big chance for the Bills. And honestly, I'm rooting for them because I love Josh Allen and this team overall. But it would be kind of embarrassing if they don't reach the big dance. If they don't win the AFC, it'd be a huge letdown. My man of the match goes to James Cook. I know Josh Allen had a great game, and I do think he's kind of in the MVP race still, as kind of like a far behind Drake May and Stafford. But James Cook, I think, carried the load against a great run defense in New England. He carved them up for over 100 yards. I believe he also caught a couple touchdowns too. Just a great game overall, and I think he was the main engine as to why Buffalo was able to come back. So shout out to them. And New England, just don't let this loss turn into a skid, because if you lose the division, that would also be incredibly embarrassing. Now to the Jaguars pummeling the Jets 48-20. I'm going to try and keep this one extremely brief. The Jaguars, they destroyed the Jets, and it really wasn't close. Talking about the Jets briefly, nothing of note happened outside of Brady Cook having his first touchdown, so there's a nice constellation. You got your 3 culture wins, and now it just get prepared to get destroyed in every other game. As for the Jaguars, I think the Jaguars should be pretty feared by the NFL, or at least the AFC, because we know that their defense is pretty good, and now Trevor Lawrence is starting to play really well. He gets my man of the match. 6 total touchdowns. I know it's the Jets, but still, that's really impressive from him. He started to look better in these last couple weeks, and if he can be in red hot form like that potential that he had, he's finally unlocking that potential that he had coming out of the draft. Honestly, with a great quarterback, a guy that's playing elite like Trevor Lawrence, with the rest of that roster, that's a team that's capable of even making like the AFC Championship game, maybe even the Super Bowl. So honestly, I would fear Jacksonville, especially going into that stadium. Honestly, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a real contender in the AFC. Now to the NFC, where we got the Commanders beating the Giants 29-21 in one of the bigger tank bowls of the entire year. Nothing of the playoff implications happened in this game. It was just draft order implications. The Giants, I believe, keep their first overall pick status, or it might have gone to the Raiders, depending on some sort of tiebreaker. But I mean, this is just a case of 2 bad teams facing each other, and one team was slightly not as bad in the Commanders. Mariota played pretty well. I thought Jackson Dart was going to play well, and honestly, I think he did. But overall, the defense didn't really. The defense kind of let him down outside of Abdul Carter, who had a pretty good game as well. But again, I don't really know what I'm supposed to talk about here. The Commanders had a big lead, and then they almost blew it, but then Jackson Dart couldn't do nothing on the potential game-tying drive. They did force a really key turnover out of Bill Krosky-Merritt, who actually had kind of a decent game. And overall, again, this game didn't really have much of note nor big implications, and there's really not much to talk about. Man of the match for me goes to Marcus Mariota. His inconsistent play kind of frustrates me because he makes me get my picks wrong. But overall, the Commanders, their biggest test of the entire year is maybe delaying the inevitable, which is the Eagles winning the NFC East. So who knows? Maybe they can actually do that on Saturday. Now to the Bears destroying the Browns 31-3. This was kind of a similar case to the Jacksonville game, in which this game was literally never close. The Bears defense, they bounced back heavily. They completely destroyed Shedeur Sanders. And this time, honestly, what impressed me most is that the offense completely clicked, specifically Caleb Williams. He looked incredible. He had maybe one of the best games of his career. Yes, he did get sacked a couple times, specifically by Myles Garrett, who's close to the record. But Caleb Williams had probably his best game of the season, apart from when he diced up the Cowboys. He was that good. Barely threw any incompletions, had a bunch of bombs for touchdowns, had an insane throw to, I believe, DJ Moore. And overall, it was just a case of the Bears going back. I believe they now lead the NFC North thanks to the Packers losing to the Broncos. And as for the Browns, Shedeur Sanders did not look good. I don't care what his fan base says. I don't care about the box score or anything. He just didn't look good. He went up against a good defense with bad weapons. It's not exactly his fault per se, but to say that he looked good in this loss, that would be lying. I'm sorry. Man of the match, like I said, Caleb Williams. Once again, it's just another case similar to Jacksonville, where if we can get this version of their quarterback in the playoffs with the rest of that roster, run game, and defense and coach, like, this is a team that could make a very deep playoff run, especially with maybe home field advantage, at least in 1 or 2 of the games. Chicago, I would fear playing Chicago if I was in the NFC. Now to the late slate, we got the Saints upsetting, quote-unquote, the Panthers 20-17. I say quote-unquote because, honestly, I don't know who's good in this division anymore. The Panthers, they completely blew their chance. We got the inconsistent version of the Panthers. Bryce Young played fine, but I wouldn't say he played great, not like he played against the Rams. And overall, I think he was kind of outplayed by Tyler Shuck, which is Tyler Shuck might actually be good, which is, not surprising considering we're in the 2025 NFL season and nothing is surprising anymore. But still, that was not on my bingo card preseason. But overall, just the Panthers blew it. They had a big lead, and then the Saints ended up coming back, and then when they had a chance to win the game, the Panthers did, they completely blew it. Bryce Young couldn't do anything, and then Tyler Shuck ended up leading a game-winning drive, getting a penalty, getting hit. It might have been a little bit soft on the refs, but hey, he did hit him in the head, which forced a shorter field goal, and then the Saints ended up winning. Once again, for the Saints, this is more just culture wins. I guess shout out to Kellen Moore for rallying the troops. But in terms of draft picks, this makes their pick worse. Man of the match for me goes to Tyler Shuck. Once again, I think he's actually been pretty good this season. I think he's been better than Spencer Rattler. And he might actually be the quarterback for next season, so we'll see. And just again for the Panthers, your only goal now is to just beat Tampa Bay. Yes, you fooled around the entire season, but if you can just lock in for these final 2 games, then maybe it can all be for naught. And overall, next week and Week 18 will decide who's going to get pummeled by Seattle or the Rams in the wild card round. Speaking of the Rams, we got them beating the Lions 41-34 in what I expected to be the best shootout of the week, and I ended up getting that. Both teams' offenses completely clicked, but it started out with the Lions being one step ahead, and then once the Rams were able to double up on some scores, they were able to stay one step ahead of the Lions the entire time. The Rams' offense completely clicked. The running game was good. Puka Nacua completely torched the Lions' defense. Matthew Stafford played incredible. Devontae Adams, I think, had a decent game, but unfortunately, he did get hurt. He was one of the big names that got hurt. Hopefully, it's not long-term because Devontae is one of the bigger weapons of that offense, but we'll just have to see how his status is. And as for the Lions, I mean, they had the lead. I believe they had a double-digit lead, but then they just blew it, despite Amon-Ra and Jared Goff having incredible games. Jameson also popped off, but it was mostly that their running game, they couldn't really get their running game off. And again, it just kind of sucks for the Lions because there's no shame in losing to the Rams, but it feels like this loss might have actually kind of kicked them out of the playoff race with the 49ers, the Packers, and the Seahawks playing so well as wildcard teams. Maybe they can leapfrog the Packers because of their injuries, but it kind of feels like this season is kind of lost with this roster, which is really disappointing, honestly. Man of the match for me goes to Puka Nacua. Like I said, he had 180 yards, looked like one of the best receivers in the league, looked like early season Puka Nacua, in which he was destroying everyone. And I guess shout out to the Rams, who only have one job on Thursday, which is to beat Seattle, sweep the series, and maybe clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC shortly after. So we'll see if they can do that because, once again, there's a lot of dangerous teams in the NFC, but honestly, I would not want to play the Rams either. Now we got the Colts getting disappointed by the Seahawks 18-16 in Phillip Rivers' long-awaited debut. He got the start, and speaking of Phillip Rivers, honestly, he didn't look all that bad. He looked like a 44-year-old. Those passes were wobbly as hell. I saw a meme that said he throws the greatest foot-long meat sub that I've ever seen, which just was really funny to me. But overall, he wasn't very efficient or anything like that. But once again, he honestly managed the offense decently. I mean, they were able to get he threw a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor did fine. But it was overall that their defense kind of bent and broke at the worst possible time. They were able to force Seattle to not get into the end zone, but they kept getting field goals. And in the end, Phillip Rivers ended up leading an insane drive to get them a field goal, but then the defense kind of collapsed and let Sam Darnold drive them into field goal range once again, similar to what he did against the Cardinals back in week 4. And then Jason Myers was able to kick it off, and then Phillip Rivers threw a game-losing interception. It's very disappointing that Phillip Rivers couldn't win, especially because it would have been really funny for just the NFL meme culture, and it would have been very on brand for this season. But it just sucks for the Colts that it feels like their season is just derailing before our eyes after such a promising start. Looks like they're going to miss the playoffs. As for Seattle, you better not play like this against the Rams because otherwise you're going to get destroyed. But, I mean, my man of the match goes to Jason Myers, of all people, their kicker. 6 field goals, including the game winner, with no one else getting a touchdown. That's definitely man of the match worthy. So, Seattle, I still think you're a good team. It's just that this performance is not going to cut it in the battle for the NFC West. Now I got the Broncos beating the Packers 34-26. The Broncos are legit. I mean, I picked the Packers because I thought they were more legit than the Packers. The Broncos are arguably the best team in the NFL. Maybe the Rams, maybe they're better than them. But the Broncos, they have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and Bo Nix played incredible. I'm sorry. Bo Nix is actually a good quarterback. He popped off for 4 touchdowns, was close to being my player of the week. The defense locked up. Patrick Surtain had an insane interception. But I guess the biggest story, apart from the Broncos just being good, talking over to the Packers, their injuries, man. Christian Watson is now out for a bit, and Micah Parsons obviously tore his ACL, which just kind of derails everything that the Packers wanted to do. Not even in the sense of, trading all those assets. It's not like they lost many players outside of Kenny Clark. It just really sucks for them because Micah Parsons is supposed to be the guy that carries you over. He's the guy that makes you win playoff games, in my opinion, and now that he's gone, it feels like the Packers are now just back to that form that they were in the last 2 years, which is just a nice wild card team and not one of the true contenders. It really sucks because, once again, it seems like they had a really promising season. They had a chance to win the North. Now it feels like they're going to lose it to Chicago, and if they meet the wrong team, they could also be a one and done in the playoffs. So kind of feel bad for them. But like I said, for the Broncos, my man of the match is Bo Nix. He was absolutely incredible. Once again, 4 touchdowns against one of the better defenses. Even without Micah, even when Micah was there, he was still playing just so great. This is the Bo Nix that every Broncos fan wants to see. And once again, similar to the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Bears, when you have that roster and defense with this type of quarterback, there's really no one that can beat you when those two things are at play. Now I got the 49ers destroying the Titans 37-24. This game was a lot less close than the final score indicates. The 49ers offense just imposed their will. Shout out to the Titans, I guess, because Cam Ward played a decent game. Tony Pollard had a couple yards, and Jeffrey Simmons caught a touchdown. I kind of wanted to give the man of the match to Jeffrey Simmons for having a sack, a forced fumble, and a receiving touchdown. Looked like 2014 J.J. Watt. But overall, the 49ers, once again, their offense just clicked. Purdy played incredible. I believe Christian McCaffrey might have had a touchdown. George Kittle had another touchdown. And the 49ers just seem like they're going to make maybe the last wild card spot, which again, may not set them up for success because they might face one of the better teams in the NFC. But honestly, if they make the playoffs in a decently high seed, Kyle Shanahan deserves Coach of the Year because all these injuries and you're still one of the best teams in the league, that's definitely praiseworthy. Man of the match for me goes to Brock Purdy. He was insanely efficient. One of those like 2022 or 2023 type games where Purdy's just incredibly efficient, has all these good stat lines, similar to Jared Goff in a way. And yeah, shout out to Purdy for defeating the Mac Jones allegations. I think we can all agree that he's definitely the better quarterback option, but the streets will never forget McCorkle from like week 2 to all the way to week 10. But once again, the 49ers, they're a frisky team. They can definitely pull off an upset in the playoffs if they meet the right team. Now to Sunday Night Football. We got the Vikings beating the Cowboys 34-26. Over to Dallas first. They just did typical Cowboy things. I should have expected this. When you trust them the most, that's when they disappoint you the most as well. The offense came out kind of flat. They weren't really able to do much. George Pickens didn't have the greatest game. And overall, it was just, again, that their defense ended up breaking down. We should have known that stalling out Philly and beating the Chiefs and doing this and that really wasn't that very convincing, because letting J.J. McCarthy outplay you in every way, that's just embarrassing. J.J. McCarthy had by far his best game as a pro, dicing up this defense. It only took the Cowboys' defense for J.J. McCarthy to look great, but the only thing that I'm going to criticize about the Vikings is the fact that Justin Jefferson still looked bad despite J.J. McCarthy playing well. There obviously isn't a chemistry between those two, and it seems like Jefferson has lost his confidence. This is definitely a lost season for him. I feel like they just need to look at the offseason and just pray that he hasn't lost his confidence or all his talent. I think he's going to do better next season, but that is just something to monitor. And as for the big picture, the Cowboys, they kind of blew their chances at the playoffs. Now, if they lose one more game or if Philly wins one more game, their shot at the NFC East is done, and they're definitely not going to get a wild card spot with how the NFC is. So, yeah, there's good job, Jerry and Brian Schottenheimer. You blew it. Man of the match for me goes to J.J. McCarthy. Like I was saying, this is definitely the best game of his career. It only took the Cowboys defense for him to do it. But, he looked like a passable quarterback. He's looked good against the Commanders in Dallas, so I'm not going to put too much stock on it. But I guess it's better to see this competent J.J. McCarthy as opposed to whatever the hell we saw from like weeks 1 to 13. And ending the week, we got Monday Night Football with the Steelers destroying the Dolphins 28-15. Once again, this game was really not that close. The Dolphins scored 2 garbage time touchdowns, but the Steelers' offense actually played really well. And they're honestly just a very complete game by the Steelers. Kind of one of the more calm victories that they've had in like the last couple of years. Aaron Rodgers, for me, played incredible. Kenneth Gainwell was popping off. Aaron Rodgers had an absolute laser touchdown to DK Metcalf. The defense forced Tua to look terrible, and the running game that wasn't really able to do much. Tua just continues to not play well in cold weather games. And looking over to the Dolphins, it just kind of sucks because they were like on a 4-game winning streak, and it looked like they could maybe make like a tiny run at the wild card round. But no, they lost, and now they're eliminated. Now I just don't really know where they go. Do you keep Mike McDaniel? Do you keep Tua around? Because they're definitely a very low floor that you might have without them, but there's also a very low ceiling that you have without them. So it'll just be interesting to see what they do over the offseason. And looking over at the Steelers, once again, I thought they were dead after losing to Buffalo, but they've rallied off 2 pretty good wins, and it looks like they're going to win the AFC North. Now, yes, that might lead them to getting destroyed by Jacksonville or the Texans or one of the other wildcard teams. But hey, it's just a consolation prize, and I guess winning the division is obviously better than not winning the division. Man of the match for me goes to Aaron Rodgers. He was just really efficient. 19 of 22 for like 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is a good game manager. Let the run game and everyone do everything for him. And overall, he was just able to sit back, similar to all those tush pushes with the tight end where he just stands behind the line of scrimmage and does nothing. That's basically how the game played out. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers and shout out to the Steelers, who definitely proved me wrong after Week 13. And ending the week, we got my superlatives. My player of the week is James Cook. I was going to give it to Bo Nix, but honestly, after looking at how good the New England run defense is, and for James Cook to do that, to spearhead a 21-0 comeback to save your division hopes, for me, that just goes to James Cook. Yes, Josh Allen, he did play great as well, but I just think James Cook was the best player of the entire week. And overall, there was just a lot of good candidates. I just think James Cook stood out because he was basically facing the toughest opponent. And my Hall of Idiots goes to a lot of teams. We got the entire NFC South for being the most unserious division. No one wants to win it, and you also caused all my predictions to go wrong, so screw you for that. Then we got some other teams, the Bengals and Raiders for getting shut out, the Patriots for choking away a lead at home, and the Chiefs just because, once again, we all love laughing at the Chiefs, and they're eliminated. Expect a video on them pretty soon. And then finally, just Shedeur Sanders. This is mostly just poking fun at his cult-like fan base for trying to defend whatever the hell that performance was. Just let it go, guys. Like, he didn't play well. We can accept that. Just move forward, move on to Week 16, and just forget about that stinker that he put up. And that is it for my Week 15 NFL review. It was just such a fun week. This NFL season has been so fun, and I really hate that it's honestly really close from being over. But we still got 3 more weeks and the entire playoffs, so we still got a lot of fun to go. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and please like, as any support is truly appreciated. And I'll see you guys in a couple of days for my predictions of Week 16.